So much. So right now, Sean Spicer is joining me tonight. He's the Chief Strategist and Communications Director for the Republican National Committee. Sean, it's great to see you. Thank you for being in here. So is Governor Huckabee crossing a line here? He is still not apologizing tonight.
Well, I think there's widespread concern about this Iran agreement, or proposal rather. I'm not here to decide what comments are in or out. That's for each candidate, and if the governor stands by him, then that's his call. Our job at the RNC is not to get in the middle of policy discussions.
But in a political debate, more broadly speaking, then, is it ever appropriate to evoke the Holocaust? What does the RNC think about that, Sean?
Look, I think Governor Huckabee was referring to comments that the Ayatollah had made about what they wanted, what Iran wants to do to Israel. That is a fact. The Ayatollah has used that word and used it with respect to what Iran wants to do with Israel. And I think that it is up to Governor Huckabee to talk about what he exactly meant on that, though.
So you say it's not your position to decide what comments are right, what comments are wrong, what comments are in, what comments are out. So as the chairman,
right,
Ryan had said earlier, you guys are not in the game, in the job of calling balls and strikes. So your job is to not call balls and strikes with one candidate, but then that seems exactly what you did with another candidate when it comes to Donald Trump in questioning John McCain's war hero status. So what is the difference here then, Sean?
Well, I think, Kate, there's a huge difference. John McCain was our nominee in 2008. We got a lot of calls and questions about whether or not we stood by his record as a war hero. I think that's a vastly different question than how to describe a particular policy position.
But in your statement, you said there is no place in our party or our country for comments that disparage those who have served honorably. I mean, I don't think we at all want to get into trying to compare what raises to the level of needing the RNC to comment on it. But you're talking about the war hero status of a candidate, and you're talking about the Holocaust. They both seem, I think, pretty relatively important things, don't you think? What's the trepidation in talking about this?
Well, we're not here to be the referee. I think clearly Governor Huckabee was using words and phrases that the Ayatollah himself has used to describe what Iran would do in Israel. It is not for me or for the RNC to decide what is an appropriate use of that, when that's appropriate or not. But it's not like the governor was disparaging the Holocaust. I think he was clearly showing a level of respect and how important this deal was and why his opposition was or why he believes we need to oppose this deal. And again, it is not for me to get into each candidate and say that was appropriate, this wasn't appropriate. But I think that we can understand where Governor Huckabee was coming from and what he was trying to communicate. But again, we're not going to sit here night after night and decide, Ted Cruz said this, Chris Christie said this, Rand Paul said this, is this right or wrong? I think at the end of the day, there's one thing to have different policy views or different discussions on experience, and then what Ryan and myself have talked about is the name calling among Republicans to each other goes to.
So we're talking about, you talk about Donald Trump and those remarks that he made and talking about John McCain's war hero status. There's no question right now, when you look at these most recent polls that CNN just put out, that he's going to be on the debate stage next month. You put out a really interesting piece earlier today saying that you guys have really worked to try to improve the debates. But candidates themselves, Sean, are criticizing process for limiting the number of people who can make it on the main stage. They say it really only benefits those who yell the loudest, they're celebrities, or they have high name ID. I mean, it's only July. Do they have a point?
Well, look, the debate started in May of 2011, the last cycle, so it's a little different comparing apples to oranges. But at the end of the day, the reality is only the greatest number of people ever to appear on any debate stage for either party is 10. Both CNN and Fox are matching that and then going the extra step of saying there are other really qualified candidates, or if you will, that make up this group of top 16, and we want to make sure that we're inclusive and get them to have a voice. I get it's not perfect. Nobody's saying it's perfect. I'll be the first one to admit that, and I think the chairman would be the second one. But at the end of the day, I commend both CNN and Fox for finding a way to give a voice to everybody who's in that top 16. Because that's what this is all about. And so, and I would say that for some of these candidates, if you look at the historical precedent of saying that you have to be at a minimum of 1%, right now those people are getting that voice that they otherwise might have been denied in previous cycles.
Sean, thank you so much. It's going to be interesting, to say the very least.
Thanks, Kate.
Great to see you.
Thank you. Oh, well.
Out front next.